And we have a special guest in the building. We have the author of Kayfabe, a love story, David Rueter. David, welcome to the Straight Shooters, and thanks for joining us, good sir.
Nick Vaughn, thanks for having me. First time, long time.
Oh, that's great to hear. Good old Philly radio cliche there. First time, long time, of course. You'll hang up and listen to the questions after that?
That's right. The last caller stole my thunder, but I'm gonna hang up and listen.
How are you, though? How's everything going in the world of David Rueter at the moment?
Doing great, doing great. Just wrote a book about wrestling from 1987 because why not? What could be more topical in 2024 than
Exactly.
writing a book about wrestling from 35 years ago? So just trying to get the word out and hope people enjoy reading it as much as I enjoyed writing it. Because for 2 years, I locked myself in the basement and watched and consumed as much wrestling as possible. And it was maybe the greatest 2 years of my life, to be honest, selfishly.
Man.
So, I really enjoyed myself. I really enjoyed writing the book and hope people check it out and hope people love reading it.
And your book that we're talking about, Kayfabe, a love story, is the reason why you're here, obviously. And we're excited to have you because this book is authored and written in a unique way because you wrote it, some things based off of your life, some tales, but the way you talk about wrestling is strictly kayfabe. It is strictly as if it is reality. There's no use of real names. We're not talking about, the way that it's booked or the story and nothing like that. No, this is what happened. And specifically, we'll talk about it. Your 1992 Royal Rumble handicap odds for that particular match. Hilarious. I read through your odds there in that, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, just kind of, first of all, let's go through a little bit of a synopsis of the book real quick, straight from Amazon. Okay.
Right.
Where obviously the book is available wherever books are found, including Amazon here. But according to Amazon, it is paying homage to 1987's WrestleMania 3. Kayfabe, a love story, is a collection of 87 essays written in an alternate universe where professional wrestling isn't scripted and the match results aren't predetermined. So step around the shards of glass from the broken barbershop window and cozy up next to your favorite top turnbuckle because a love story is indeed a happening. That's great. Nice and succinct. That's great stuff right there. So without giving away the entire prologue of the book, because we obviously want people to pay for the book and read that, tell people just kind of how this book came about. I'm sure it came from a germ of an idea. But yeah, tell everybody, for those who haven't heard you talk about it before or haven't read the book yet, how this book came about.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is my third book. I wrote two books. First one about the Sixers Odyssey, then a Phillies Odyssey, which is chapters or a book about random athletes on the Sixers and random athletes from the Phillies. So I start off in the Philadelphia blogging world. Like everyone else in the 2000s, I started a blog. No one read mine. Probably I'm not alone there. I'm not the first person who started a blog and nobody read it. But the premise of the first two books were short, quick chapters. And I kind of like that premise from my old blogging world where I don't think I can write a fiction book, Vaughn, but I think I can write a bunch of blog posts. And I treat each chapter only a couple pages long as blog posts. So when I was kind of deciding on what I wanted my third book to be, my wife actually said, and my wife books the territory in my house, said, you should write a book about wrestling. And I was like, huh. And kind of like the light bulb went off. And I think with the kayfabe's been dead for 20 years or so, right? There's so much transparency on social media and all the pro wrestlers on social media, and everyone knows kind of their behind the scenes stories and, Dave Meltzer, et cetera, et cetera. I knew I didn't want to write that book. And I'm Vaughn. I'm someone who loves that stuff. I've seen more shoot interviews on YouTube than I care to admit. I love all that stuff. I read Mick Foley's book. I read Roddy Piper's book. I read Bret Hart's book twice. I love all that stuff, but I am not the person to write that. And I don't think I could have brought anything new to the conversation. But what I think I can offer was, just like you, Nick, and everybody else, is that growing up, I became a fan of pro wrestling. So I grew up in the golden era with Hulk Hogan and Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought, as opposed to trying to write about the behind the scenes and who had heat backstage and, booking decisions, so on and so forth, what if I, as a 39-year-old guy, went back in time, watched all the stuff I watched as a kid, under the premise that it's all taken at face value, that nothing was predetermined, that nothing was scripted. So I thought that there's me as a 39-year-old kid watching the same stuff that I watched when I was 5, 6, and 7 years old, thinking that it's all real. None of it's predetermined. None of it's scripted. I thought there'd be a lot of entertainment that could come out of that. And make no mistake, the book is intended to be funny. It is intended to be tongue-in-cheek. It's intended to make you laugh. If you go through one of these essays, and each chapter is only about 3 or 4 pages long, and don't laugh, then I failed. I didn't do my job. But my intent was certainly to write a funny book that kind of reminds you of why you fell in love with pro wrestling in the first place. And that's why it's called a Kayfabe love story. So I'm hoping that it drums up these feelings of nostalgia. Is that when you read that book, it's just like, I remember, watching that Hogan Andre match, WrestleMania 3, whatever the case may be. So I wanted to, I wanted to do what is completely different. Everything now is tied to shoot stuff. And what if I did the complete opposite and went against the grain completely in 2024 and wrote something that was strictly in kayfabe?
Awesome. And it's tailor-made for this podcast, but we do deep dives into shows from the past.
Yeah.
And it's all nostalgia. And I always ask Nick, especially because he's a little bit older than me, but he remembers a lot of stuff better than I do sometimes. Like, where were you in life at that point? And it's always a fun conversation.
Right.
Talk about where we both were in life for certain events, because there's some events he remembers when he was a kid and I don't have any recollection at all, and vice versa or whatever. But it's always fun to talk about those pretty much glory days, whether it's the 80s for you or for me, the late 90s into the early 2000s. Nick, 1995 for some reason.
Maybe the worst year of professional wrestling there was, by the way, 1995, Nick. But
the content. It's tremendous content. So
it is.
There's a reason we still talk about 1995.
That's fair. The Dungeon of Doom. Yeah, right. Exactly. Both WWF and WCW were struggling in 1995. Right. But I think in the book that I have, Vaughn, is I like to include those stories, from my life. And the first chapter is the 2 Dave Hebners, right? The evil Dave Hebner. And in that chapter, I specifically remember watching that match with my father, and I didn't watch it live. It was on a Friday night main event. It wasn't Saturday night's main event. It was Friday night, but I remember taping it because I was a young kid and I couldn't stay up that late. But I remember watching it that next morning or another weekend morning right after, and I had never seen Hogan lose. So when I see like these 2 referees and they're all pointing at each other, I'm like screaming, like, this is obviously Hulk was screwed. And I remember like looking at my dad, who's like, the person I looked up to, my hero, expecting him to like, hey, Dave, everything's going to be okay. They're going to straighten this out. Like the title didn't change hands. And my dad just cracking up. He thinks this is the funniest thing in the world because he just kept saying there's 2 of them. There's 2 Dave Hebners. And he thinks this is like the greatest comedy routine of all time. And that's making me even more mad. Because like, where's Dad? Where are you? Like, your son's hurting right now. He's pissed. I'm about to punch the drywall with my little fist, and you're just sitting there laughing. And to me, I think that's relatable, right? And it's maybe not Hogan Andre from the main event, but maybe it's Hogan Warrior, or maybe it's Heart Foundation, Brainbusters, whatever. Everyone probably has that match as a kid. Maybe Nick has it from some terrible match in 1995 where he remembers specifically watching that and maybe getting really mad at a result or getting really happy at a result. So I thought that particular story, for instance, which starts off the book, is relatable, right? And maybe it's not that match, but I think everyone who reads the book probably has an example or a story from their childhood where they're watching something and they're getting really mad because when you're 5 or 6, 7 years old, you don't know it's predetermined. You don't know it's scripted. All I knew was that Hulk Hogan got screwed and that there was a second guy who got facial plastic surgery, looked like Dave Hebner, and I don't know why he went through it. And I, like Hulk, want to know how much Ted DiBiase paid that guy.
How much did he pay him, man?
Like in 1988, how advanced was modern science? Like how, so to me, it's just, I think these were like, that was an obvious story to include in the book because I hope it's relatable, not to that match per se, but I think everyone has that experience as a kid watching pro wrestling.
And I started watching wrestling in 1990. So my first experience was Hulk Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior. That was the first match I ever saw. So it's almost like, okay, how much bigger can that really get, especially in that time frame? like if my first match was Hulk Hogan versus Sergeant Slaughter, I'd probably be like, oh my god, Sergeant Slaughter is the biggest, wrestler ever. Like main event of WrestleMania. So that being my first match, and I didn't see it live. I saw it. I went over to my babysitter's house, and her family loved wrestling, so that's how I got into it. I'd be watching it whenever I was over there. They'd be watching it, and I remember watching that match and just being like, wow, like just the aesthetics of it, like the huge stadium, the red, white, and blue ropes, the colors,
Right.
the colors Hulk Hogan wore. Ultimate Warrior had the face paint on his chest, which I guess is chest paint. Just incredible stuff that I just was like mesmerized by.
Right.
So, my family started getting me into wrestling. They know I was taking to it when I was over at my babysitter's. So this book starts in what, 87 to 93, right? So that's like right in my wheelhouse, basically. Like I love, like the first thing I read, picked up a copy of it. Well, thank you, Dave, sending me one. Just the two Hebners. I wish I saw that live, kind of, because I feel like I missed out. The way
Right.
you just explain that is like, man, I have so many memories of my early childhood watching wrestling, but like that might have been like if I saw that live, I don't know, I might have been like almost too crushed to
Sure.
continue watching it. Especially
I'm still in
Hogan
therapy trying to get over that. So I
especially
get it.
when
recovered.
Hogan's my hero,
Right.
like so that's just like an incredible way to view it. And you said you had some other books, so I'm just kind of wondering. I watch wrestling for fun. We do this podcast. I used to write about it. Vaughn writes about it now. Not me as much, but I'm still open to that. But now I just kind of watch the old stuff because it brings back the nostalgic feeling. It brings back the memory of being in my house with my parents, and I'm like 8 years old, and I'm comfortable, and I'm safe,
Sure.
and I'm watching the only thing I loved. I didn't watch sports growing up except the Phillies.
Right.
I didn't watch anything except wrestling. I didn't watch cartoons. I didn't watch or read comic books. So wrestling was my thing growing up. So it was there. I watch stuff all the time, just randomly. Like any day, I'll put in like an old thing, an old show from the early 90s. Is that like, how did your idea for writing this book? Were you watching something and you're like, it'd be really funny to kind of write something as if what I'm watching right now is real, or did you kind of already have an idea before, as you were writing your other books, that this was something that you wanted to do eventually?
That's a great question. So when I was on a podcast for my first book, this Sixers Odyssey, and the hosts that had me are big wrestling fans, and I know I loved wrestling growing up. And before we recorded or after recorded, he actually made some joke. He goes, I would read 100,000 words that you would write on the Beverly Brothers. And I laughed. I was like, if I wrote 100,000 words on the Beverly Brothers, only Blake and Bo were reading that. No one else is reading that, right? But maybe I planted a seed in my head that I don't think I realized at the time. Because then when my wife said it, I was like, gosh, like there's such a huge audience for it, right? Like there's so many wrestling fans that kind of want to, kind of digest all this content. But then it was kind of, I don't have it in, right? It's, I am not a journalist. I am not a writer by trade. And it's just like, where's my angle? I guess I think I was trying to kind of determine. So what I did is I started watching all the Saturday night's main events because for the most part, I had seen pretty much everything via YouTube long after 1992, which was the last Saturday night's main event. But I never watched them live as a kid because they were on too late. So I think they're on like before SNL or after SNL, and I was at a bedtime. So I started watching all of those because I knew a lot of big things happen, and I knew it was a lot of it was matches. It wasn't just squash matches, and I just hadn't seen them in so long, or hadn't seen them in its entirety. And I just started watching it to jog my memory. And I start off with this in a prologue: is that I was watching a Saturday Night's Main Event. I started from 1985 through 92. They were the very first. I watched a lot of wrestling, covered 85 through 93. But the very first thing I watched were all the Saturday Night's Main Events. And there was one, 1989, is in November. And it was the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, against a still heel at this time, Big Boss Man, who turned babyface a few months later. And he was managed by Slick. So they get in the ring, and American Dream starts talking to the ref, and he starts pointing outside to Slick, starts talking to the referee, kind of getting in his ear. And Vince McMahon and Jesse Ventura were on commentary, and they're kind of like, what's going on there, Jess? Like, I don't know. What's Dusty saying? And I'm sitting here. I don't know if I had seen that match live or even seen it on YouTube. So I'm almost like watching it for the first time. I started laughing. Like, what? Like, why is Dusty Rhodes pointing at Slick, right? And all of a sudden, a ref comes over to talk to Slick on the outside, and Slick reaches into his wallet, pulls out, looks to be a business card, hands it to the referee, and Jesse Ventura says, "Oh, of course." Slick showing the referee his manager's license, proving that he has a right to be at ringside. And Vaughn and Nick, I started laughing hysterically, like in my living room. I was like, Slick's been a manager since 1986. He was introduced in 1986 on an episode of All-American or Championship Wrestling where he purchased one half of Classy Freddie Blassie's stable. This man paid Freddie Blassie's money to acquire half of his wrestlers. And now here we are almost in 1990, and you have Dusty Rhodes saying, what's he doing at ringside? Can he be at ringside? And the fact that Jesse Ventura so matter-of-factly said, oh, he's showing him his manager's license. I thought, and all of a sudden it was like a eureka moment. I'm like, that's it. That's the book, right?
Yeah.
That's the book. It's just the beauty of kayfabe where everyone's in on the joke, and you can almost see it's like everything said with like a wink and a nod. And of course, like Jesse Ventura knows what he just said was complete BS. There is no manager's license.
Right.
He handed him just a plain business card, but the ref looked at it and studied and said, "Oh, you can be here." As if now 3 years later that this was ever like under discretion. Like is the Slickster allowed to be at ringside? And I saw that and I said, "That's the book." So from then and there, I started watching everything, and I wrote down about 40 chapter ideas as stuff that I remember vividly as what would be funny for me to write as if it wasn't scripted. It was Ricky Steamboat, Randy Savage, and the Crush Larynx. Ricky Steamboat was my favorite wrestler, which drove me crazy. It's like that was an easy chapter. Obviously, it was the two Dave Hebners. It was Mr. Fuji, who was managing Demolition, the tag team champs, who then turned on Demolition to manage the Powers of Pain, who weren't the champs. And then demanded a tag title shot at WrestleMania 5. And the whole chapter I write about that is, you were already managing the tag champs. Axe and Smash loved you. What are we doing here? And to me, as I rewatched WrestleMania 5, and then I watched Survivor Series 1988, which started off that feud, and Fuji turned his back on Demolition, the whole time I'm like, as a manager, you were working your way up to manage the champions. You are managing the champions. Demolition loved you. And you were like, nah, enough of these guys. I'd rather take the number one contenders. And to me, even saying it, you see how ridiculous it sounds. But if I could put those thoughts to paper, I'm like, I think that's a pretty good premise for a book.
What you just said kind of leads into my next question, is that for me personally, I love writing about pro wrestling, especially, I like telling the stories I like telling the real stories about wrestlers because they are fascinating. But the kayfabe story of wrestling is absurd because wrestling is an absurd form of entertainment. And you have these stories that are just goofy and they are unintentionally sometimes hilarious. Like you just said, Mr. Fuji, why would you turn on the champs? That's like, hey, we're the Super Bowl champs. I'm leaving. Or I guess he just pulled a Jim Harbaugh. He just won a natty from Michigan and he left.
Exactly.
For the third or fourth place team in the AFC West. So different circumstances, obviously, but it just seems on the surface and within wrestling, it seems absurd, right?
Right.
And I was going to ask you, what makes these stories so fascinating for you to write them, to take the time to sit down and recount them and tell them?
Sure. Again,
even despite how ridiculous they may be. I mean, some of these stories are literally ridiculous that a Hollywood writer be like, this is garbage. But to us, it's fascinating. The twin referee thing is ridiculous.
Right.
It's a ridiculous premise. Someone changed their face for Ted DiBiase. Doesn't make any sense.
Like how down on your luck you must have been to be like, you know what? Man, I'm really cash strapped. Here's a picture of Dave Hebner. He's a pretty good looking guy. Yeah, sure.
Also that. Why would you want to be Dave Hebner?
When's surgery? Tuesday morning? All right, I'll be there. Yeah.
My wife thinks I'm ugly. She's about to leave.
Yeah, here's
I'm
10
also change it
grand.
up.
There, here's 10 grand. And Vaughn, to answer your question, I think what's so fascinating about it is that when I was a kid, I didn't realize it was scripted. When I was a kid, it was real. And I think going back in time, that's what's so fascinating is all these things I took at face value. Where now, as I watch it 30 years, 25 years later, how absurd it is and how ridiculous it is. Back when I was like 5, 6, 7 years old, I took everything at face value. So to me, to kind of go back in time and try to kind of put on these glasses as like a kid in first or second grade watching this for the first time, and it was just like, yeah, I don't know how in 1989 they did a surgery on this man to make it look like Dave Hefner, but it happened. That's not, I'm not a doctor, Vaughn. I'm
lot
not
of
a
money.
doctor. Yeah, I
Ted
can't.
DiBiase had a lot of money,
rich.
man.
Yeah,
Right, exactly. He's $1 million man, and Hulk Hogan always called him the $1 billion man for some reason. Like, why?
Multi-million dollar, like
The
shut up,
multi-million.
Hulk. Like, what the hell?
If you
He
hate
had
this man
more than
so
1 million, guys.
if you hate the man so much, why are you rounding up? Anything round down, the $1,000 man. But I think it's because when we were kids, Vaughn, is I didn't know any better. So to me, that was a fascinating aspect. Is I'm writing about all these things as if I was a kid again, and obviously with a wink and a nod, and trying to make it humorous and funny, but seeing it for the second time, but almost pretending like I'm watching it the first time, as a kid.
And I think part of that is a lot of people that read the book, I've read some of it. We think the same exact thing. Like we're reading your words, but when we were watching that live when we were a kid, we're probably thinking the same exact thing. Even like as an adult watching it back, we're probably like, man, as a kid, like I was really gullible and that's really funny. But like you're putting it to words and just reading it, you're like, yeah, that's exactly what I thought back then. Like,
Right.
and it's just there's something about that where it's even more humorous when you're reading, about I don't know, Randy Savage getting bitten by a snake or something, and you're just like,
Sure.
why the hell was Jake Roberts not arrested? And
Right.
why is his explanation that the snake wasn't venomous good enough for him not to be like fired or something? Like, why? Like, oh, it's okay that the snake bit him though, because it was devenomized or something.
Like that's not holding up in the court of law. Like there's no jury
Right.
that's like, oh, we can't convict him. That cobra wasn't venomous.
He told us, like,
silly
there's
prank.
There's no lab paperwork, but
Right.
he told us at face value,
Right,
and that's good
exactly.
enough for Jack on the take tunny. So, one of those things, like just stuff like that, and that was the first instance of wrestling. So that happened like late '91, right?
Yep.
And I had been watching a little over a year at that point, and that was the first time I was really like scared as hell, like when I'm
Sure.
watching wrestling, and I'm like, I am scared. I do not want to watch this anymore. Like, why
Right.
would I want to watch this? Bring out Earthquake or something. I'd rather see Earthquake squash somebody rather than Randy Savage get bitten by a damn snake.
Right.
And this is, of course, after Earthquake squashed Damien, and
Right,
stuff like
exactly.
that,
Man.
which I didn't actually see live. That was like probably one of the weeks I missed. I didn't watch it, so
Right.
I don't remember that story. But I remember obviously watching back when I grew up, and I was like, wait, so that actually happened after I started watching, but I just didn't see it live. But I sure as hell saw Randy Savage get bitten by a snake live. So, and how they, Elizabeth came running out and they're wiping her screams into the TV, and I like run out of the room kind of because I'm like, I'm not watching this. And my dad's just sitting there watching because he just watches whatever's on TV. It's
Right.
not like he doesn't care. I come back in, he's just like, yep. Like he got bit by a snake. All right. Well, here's Jim Powers coming out for like
And here's Jim Powers.
next match or something. So
Right.
it was just stuff like that.
When I saw that
funny as
live,
hell.
I was seeing snakes everywhere in my house. Like the garden hose was a snake. Like I was terrified. Like I'm like sleeping in the floor of my parents' bedroom because it's like I was seeing snakes everywhere. And that was Saturday morning, right? Superstars was Saturday morning. Wrestling Challenge was Sunday morning. This is like Saturday morning, 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing a human being being bit by a supposedly non-venomous cobra. Like that's
why is
not,
Randy Savage punching the air everywhere? He's
Right.
falling everywhere. Is it really devenomized? I'm not so sure.
He's hurt. I don't know. I don't know if a snake injury one from the other, but Randy Savage sure looked injured. It sure he had that venom going through his veins. I actually have a theory about because 1991 and 92, a lot of crazy things happened, and I have this theory, and I have a running gag in the book, whereas I always trash Jack Tunney. Nothing against Jack Tunney, But I have a running gag, and I have the second and last chapter of the book is basically a Twitter thread, as if Twitter was around back then, ripping Jack Tunney. Right? It's a running gag. Obviously, it's a joke. I have no opinion about Jack Tunney one way or the other. But I have a theory that in 1990, Jack Tunney, Kayfabe, suspended Rick Rude indefinitely for a couple of mama jokes about the big boss man. And I thought that was a pretty harsh penalty, Vaughn. Like, I don't like, all right, like people have been like talking trash for years, but like a couple mama jokes, and all of a sudden Rick Rude gets suspended indefinitely. And I think my theory is that the pushback from that harsh punishment was so drastic that Jack Tunney went the other way on the pendulum and then started letting everything go.
Oh,
because the Berserker took a sword and tried to murder Undertaker.
He did.
Nothing happened. You know, he's probably at Wrestling Challenge the next day.
He overcorrected.
You have Cobra Bites. He overcorrected. Exactly. You have Jake Roberts having Ultimate Warrior go through like his snake funhouse, his funhouse of snakes. You know, like the Repo Man tried to strangle the British Bulldog with a tow rope. And like Gorilla Monsoons is like, oh, we need to get some help down here. I'm like, he's getting hung. He's getting hung right now. And Bobby Heenan is like, oh, you might as well, drag his carcass to the local pound. And I'm like, where can we get some help around here? But all of these events happen after Jack Tunney suspended Rick Rude for a couple of mama jokes. And the only thing I can think of is that Jack Tunney and Kayfabe was just like, the blowback was way too hard that he just started letting everything go.
Let everything go.
Right.
Snakes fighting people.
Right.
People getting strangled.
Everything was allowed. And even at this Tuesday in Texas, Randy Savage fought Jake Roberts again, and snakes were banned from ringside. After the Cobra Bite, good on Jack Tunney. All reptiles. Correct. Thank you, Nick. All reptiles were banned from ringside. So Roberts fights Savage. After the match, he reaches into a bag underneath the ring, and they're like, there has to be a snake in there. I'm like, no kidding, has to be a snake in there. This guy's been pulling a snake out of his bag since 1986. It's November of 1991. Where the hell's Jack Tunney? Where's put your money where your mouth is. And to me, rewatching this Tuesday in Texas as like a 39-year-old guy, to me, like, I didn't even think I had to write jokes about that. Like, just even saying it out loud. I think there was like kind of entertaining value there, right?
That's pretty much every deep dive we do. We just talk about the absurdity of the decisions people make within kayfabe. Like, some of these things don't make sense.
Like, after that match, after basically Jake Roberts hit Miss Elizabeth, pulled out this bag, Tunney finally gets his butt to the ring and like ushers Jake out of the ring. Like, that's it. Like, where's your security?
Where the cops?
Where's the cops? Where's Rene Goulet? Where's anybody? Right? We're just like so casual. Like, hey, Jake, that's enough. That's enough.
It wasn't an officially sanctioned jailhouse match.
Yeah,
if it was a jailhouse match,
a whole different story.
Then,
a whole different story. But
That's
anyway,
great.
so I think that's to me, it was so obvious, like rewatching this stuff, and to your point, Vaughn, just to get the absurdity of it all is like, why would I want to write about the shoot side of things when I think there is so much, comedic value just on the surface?
There's so much, and we laugh every single week on this podcast talking about just the ridiculous things that people do in wrestling that makes zero sense. Like, we just watched 95 Rumble, and we watched Earl Hebner allow 5 people to interfere in the match before finally disqualifying people. And it's like, what y'all, you watched it, Earl. You let it happen.
The first 4 are okay, but the 5th one, I gotta draw the line.
That's too many.
Exactly.
And, I was listening to your episode last week on the 92 Rumble, which I love, by the way. 92 Rumble, obviously, I think, like you guys, I think it's the greatest Rumble of all time. And Nick loves Virgil. Nick's a huge Virgil guy. I think I put that in the description of the book, I believe. But I have I have a chapter on the $1 Million Belt, which was like an unsanctioned title. How that title changed hands was like the most like laissez-faire. Like, Ted DiBiase had the belt made. That's fine. Jake Roberts stole the belt, which is fine. It's an unsanctioned belt. They fought for the title at WrestleMania 6. DiBiase won by countout, and Jesse Ventura goes, oh, well, the title can change hands on a countout because it's unsanctioned. if it's unsanctioned, there are no rules. So if there are no rules, you can't just say, "Oh, the title can change hands via count out."
Also, if it's unsanctioned, why are you giving them a referee?
Right.
Like, it's unsanctioned.
And then the following year at WrestleMania 7, Ted DiBiase wrestles Virgil. Virgil wins by count out. The title didn't change hands. We're making stuff up
But
as we go
it was
along.
non-title, apparently. They never said it was for the title.
They never said it wasn't for the title. And I actually, Nick, I started going back and watching these superstars ahead of that WrestleMania 7 just to make sure. And boy, I think everyone's a bit confused on this unsanctioned title rules because I was just like changing hands like all willy-nilly.
Right,
Obviously, it finally changed hands at SummerSlam 91. But it's just like so many examples of that where just the rules are just like, you're just making stuff up as they go.
About that is Ted DiBiase was $1 Million Champ by Survivor Series that year, because at some point during weekly television he beat Virgil again. So it's like he gave Virgil this moment at SummerSlam. He should have been the next world champ. Damn it!
Right?
Okay.
He should have won the '92 Rumble.
There was a huge pop at '91 SummerSlam when he won. There was a huge pop.
He was over.
Right, absolutely. And even was it '90 Rumble when he hit him with the belt? The crowd went bonkers. That was like a really nice build. I think they did a really nice job.
Listen, Vince fired Warrior at 91. He could, at SummerSlam 91, he could easily fit Virgil in there, team with Hulk. And
slid him right in there. Nobody would have noticed.
Nope.
Seamless.
Y'all funny.
Seamless.
Hilarious.
91 SummerSlam, that main event was probably the worst main event I watched from 85 through 93.
Wow, 91 SummerSlam. Is that the Hogan Warrior versus
match made
Triangle of Terror?
Okay, yeah.
The match
Triangle
made in
of
hell.
Terror, yes.
Because no handicap, any handicap match, the team with more wrestlers always loses. Like clockwork. There's never an example where 4-on-2, just a numbers game, Michael Cole, like whoever has more wrestlers always lose. And in fact, it was like General Adnan and Colonel Mustafa. Like it wasn't even like Sergeant Slaughter, he had the handicap here. It wasn't Hogan and Warrior, right? Exactly. It was 2-on-1.
It's really 2-on-1. You not only talk about things in kayfabe, but you also kind of blend in some of your real life stories into this as well, including one that surrounds Ricky Steamboat's promo from WrestleMania 3, which when I read you write down the promo, I laughed out loud because I can hear Ricky Steamboat say those words because I know that promo is a classic promo. You know the promo he cut before he faced Randy Savage at WrestleMania 3. He's talking about the moments, the seconds, and all that. And I was like, and you use this in the conversation with a young lady online, and I'd imagine this didn't go that well. But what was it like recounting some of these stories, including that one, which I was on the floor laughing when I read that?
I feel like I assume that everyone has seen Steamboat Savage 1,000 times like me. So I may have missed my mark on that one, Vaughn, to be honest. What does Steve Mix used to say, the old Sixers announcer? KYP, know your personnel. Sometimes you have to know your audience, and I didn't know my audience at that point. But, a lot of these stories, when I kind of prepare these books, and the third one is I'll create an Excel spreadsheet with all the chapters. And, this book, I kind of jotted down 40 chapter ideas, and I started watching. And then if I saw something, I'm like, okay, that's a chapter, and I end up getting to 87. But I would also write down a handful of stories from my youth that I think are funny, that maybe I can kind of segue in as an introduction to the chapter. Because when you have 87 chapters, Vaughn, you can afford to take some chances. Right, if every chapter was presented and introduced the same way, it's probably going to get pretty bland and pretty boring. So if I can incorporate some stories from my childhood that I think may get a laugh, I'm going to certainly do that. I talk about one story for WrestleMania 6, Demolition versus Colossal Connection. The kayfabe is Haku never tagged in Andre. Real life, Andre was really hurt at that time. I think it was one of his last matches in the World Wrestling Federation. But I compared it to the story when my family got Nintendo. It came with Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. And I had two older siblings, and my sister and brother play Super Mario Brothers all the time. And they wouldn't let me play because I was only 4 years old. And I would beg them, let me play. And my sister got so fed up that she gave me a Duck Hunt gun and said, just shoot the mushrooms. And, of course, for months, I'm just sitting there, shooting the mushrooms in Super Mario Brothers, not doing squat because, my sisters wanted to keep me quiet. And I equated that to like being Andre the Giant not getting tagged in, right? So it's like if I can kind of equate some of these stories from my youth that I think may get a laugh, I certainly could. There's other stories I think just in general, just like I don't think I'm well read, but I'm curious. There's one story about a woman named Rosie Ruiz who actually won the 1980 or 1979 Boston Marathon by skipping the first 25 and a half miles. She basically just got in their last half mile, came out of the crowd, started running, won the race. And when they asked her how she did it and how she recorded the fastest time, she goes, "I was just feeling good that day," which to me was like brilliant. And she qualified for the Boston Marathon by placing in the New York Marathon, and she placed in the New York Marathon by taking the subway. And I was just like, that's brilliant. I remember hearing that story. I'm like, man, like what a cheater. Like what a phenomenal cheater to like basically like skip the first 25 and a half miles. So I would write down stories like that I heard, and I keep it on this spreadsheet. And when I was writing a story on the Killer Bees, who always used to wear these masks and cheat, even though they were baby faces, I'm like, man, what if I kind of bring in Rosie Ruiz to kind of intro that chapter as like someone who's blatantly, brazenly cheating, and then compare it to these white meat baby faces, B. Brian Blair and Jumpin' Jim Bronzell, or these fan favorites who are like the worst, most egregious cheaters of anybody I watched in 8 or 9 years, but are getting lauded for it and celebrated for it. So like, what if I bring in this woman who, skipped the first 25 and a half miles of the marathon? So I think it was just always kind of in the back of my mind, hearing something like, Vaughn, maybe I can fit that for this chapter. Maybe I can, intro an essay, with this story, whether it's personal or something just in real life. But I just wanted to be different, right? 87 chapters, you have to be different. And I didn't want to present these in the same way.
Awesome. Will there be a part 2, and where will we go if there is a part 2?
So I said this after the first 2 books, is that I'm retired. I said after Sixers Odyssey, I said I'm retired. And then I read a Phillies Odyssey and said I'm definitely done. And now here I am after Kayfabe, a love story, saying this is it. So I've had more retirements than Sugar Ray Leonard, Vaughn. So I don't know what I'm going to do. It depends on how this book does, right? If there's a thirst for it. I think the feedback I've gotten has been really positive. Everyone said it's that's reached out to me, which I appreciate. It's they've gotten a lot of laughs about it, and I joke with people. I said, if you like the book, please tell everybody, and if you hate the book, keep it to yourself, because I don't want to handle rejection. But yeah, I think it kind of depends on how well this book's received, but I think it would make sense from a chronological order to I stopped at 93 to kind of start from like 94 and then get into the Attitude Era. And I think 94 and 95, as Nick can attest to, is kind of with the cartoon era, the kind of that family, that family era. So I think kind of having a book that kind of mixes in 94 and 95 with the more Attitude Era stuff, I think could be a nice blend if there was a sequel to this, but to be determined. I guess right now, Vaughn, I'm retired, but ask me again Friday morning, I may have a different answer for you.
So what you're saying is there's a chance, and it's probably going to be one since you retired twice already, or this is the third one. So you're on the Terry Funk track right now.
Right, exactly. This is like Terry Funk, 97 ECW, where I've been retired for 3 or 4 years. My horse is sick. I went home for 5 years, but now I'm coming back. So, yeah, I'm in the ECW version of Terry. I'm not Chainsaw Charlie yet, but I'm the ECW Terry.
Right. You're begging Dennis Stamp to referee your last match.
Exactly.
Beyond the mat, I should say.
Exactly.
We need the chapter on the 4 doinks. I'm telling you, man.
We don't.
The 4 doinks.
No, we don't.
93 Survivor Series?
Yeah.
It's in the book. It's in the book. It's called the worst Survivor Series team ever assembled.
Yes.
And they weren't the worst, because kayfabe-wise, objectively, I could only measure it by the number of eliminations. So if a team got eliminated 4-0 and didn't eliminate anybody, by default, that was the only measuring stick I could use. And if you remember the 4 doinks, they won 4-0. They shut out Bam Bam, the Head Shrinkers, and Bastion Booger.
And then laughed at Bam Bam.
And then laughed. And they laughed. And like Bam Bam has a pretty good team, Bastion Booger notwithstanding. But the 4 doinks. So I actually said that Bam Bam's team was the worst Survivor Series team ever assembled, because not only did they get shut out, but they lost to a horrific team. And if you think about it, tag teams in general in that era, they did not do well in Survivor Series. like the Bushwhackers were like the biggest Survivor Series pushovers of all time. They were like the biggest chumps. Yeah, here they were in 1993 wearing a couple doink masks, and wiping the floor with Bam Bam and company. It was a bad loss. It was a bad night at the office for Bam Bam and a head shrinker. So, but I do have a chapter kind of focusing on Survivor Series. I think I have a bit as far as like how are teams even assembled? Like, is it like a Craigslist ad? Like, hey, looking for one more? Like how are
the All-Americans? We're having tryouts.
Right. It's always so funny because you always have these team captains, right? So I think like 89, for instance, it was Rick Rude was a captain of one team, like Rude's Brood against whoever Piper's team was. And I'm always just like, why would I join Piper's team just because he has a beef with Rick Rude? It's Thanksgiving. Like, I'm just going to spend with my family. Like, why do I care that Rick Rude and Roddy Piper have like this beef going on? Not my monkey, not my circus. Like I don't. Like I'm staying home for Thanksgiving. So to me, that was like a funny kind of premise. It's like, is the other 3 or other 4 guys that would join these teams like they don't have any skin in the game? They're like, what are they doing? But
if there's any team I want to join, it's $1 Million Man's team.
Oh, for sure.
He was paying his teammates off. That 1990. Grand finale match of survival, and the pre-match promo, he was like, "There's a lot of incentive money around here." It's like, so like, wait, is he gonna just pay everyone $1 million if they win the match? Oh, I'm game. After watching the gobbledygooker come out of that egg, let's go.
It's better than working for Lex Luger for free,
right? Exactly.
He ain't got no money.
90s Survivor Series was so strange because it had the ultimate survival, and DiBiase has that promo because he has Power and Gory and Rick Martel because they shut out Jake's team. And DiBiase says, a lot of incentive if we win. And the whole time I'm like, what incentive, DiBiase? Like, what are you getting out of this? You're not getting a title shot. Like, it's just a glorified tag match. Like, what a bad investment. But I remember this promo. I'm just like why are we paying like Power and Gory to beat Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, and Tito Santana? Like,
look,
boy,
Dave, you're only proving my point. Even within kayfabe, Survivor Series means nothing. It means nothing.
I will say, the next night he faced the Ultimate Warrior for the title. That was a main event, the main event special. We did a deep dive on that. That was like one of our first ones.
That's true.
But it had nothing to do with Survivor Series.
Because he lost a match, but he still got a title shot. So save your money. Don't go paying Hercules. You're getting a title shot anyway, it sounds like. Vaughn, I agree with you. The Survivor Series, it didn't mean anything. I think 87 Survivor Series I really enjoyed because it was the first one and kind of rewatching them. But you're right. Like a lot of them were just like in 87, 88, it was like those 10-on-10 tag matches.
Oh, the tag team Survivor Series matches are the longest matches in the history of wrestling.
And you couldn't see anything because there's so many wrestlers. So it's like the camera, it's just like I'm watching a match like between Bar Zhukov's legs because the cameraman can't even get in there. And I'm like, God, this is 42 minutes? Like I should flip some laundry here.
On and on and on.
Like
it was like each guy had to get eliminated. They had to eliminate 9 people, or was it eliminate? Was it one guy in the tag team was going? I forget the rule.
I think it was one guy in the team to get eliminated, but it was both matches. Both years were about 45 minutes each. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So you could like walk your dog and come back, and like only the Russo brothers have been eliminated. Like you had this much, You'd play.
Those early ones, it took a while for like the first elimination too. It was like 15-20 minutes before the first one.
They put their working boots on. In those early Survivor Series matches. But again, Kayfabe, a love story, available wherever books are found. Go get your copy. Go cop that right now. Some funny stories in there, just based off what I've read. It's hilarious. So I know I'm getting me a copy. Nick already has his copy. You can get yours too, wherever, again, books are found. Kayfabe, a love story. And Nick is showing off his Virgil trading card. I'm sure he's happy to own that.
KYP, Nick. Know your personnel.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I knew you're a Virgil guy.
Moving on from the book, though, real quick, I wanted to get your thoughts on the big news from yesterday, and that WWE is moving to, or I say Raw, I should say, is moving to Netflix starting in January of 2025, live on Netflix over the course of the deal's worth $5 billion over the course of 10 years, which is obviously a nice chunk of money. But I'll start with Dave real quick. Quick thoughts on WWE and Netflix having a business partnership Also, I forget to mention big news from yesterday. The Rock is on the board of TKO. So if you want to talk about that a little bit, but yes, WWE and Netflix, and of course, The Rock on TKO.
I think it was Xavier Woods had a great joke where he said, "Does La Femme Nikita air right after Raw on Netflix?" Which
it's like a new La Femme Nikita on there, right?
Right. I'm mad that I didn't come up with that joke because I think that's brilliant. I think that's a great joke. The one thing, like, is it a conflict of interest that the network is on Peacock? Like, I wonder if, like, will the network eventually move over to Netflix? Because it seems to, why would you have two streaming services? Like, that was like the first question in my mind. But Vaughn, I'm coming from a guy who's been watching, 87 Wrestling Challenge for the last 20 years, for the last, so, but I did wonder about like a conflict of interest there. I don't know if you guys heard anything about that.
In the press release, it didn't say that they got like their whole library. It just said with Raw, and I think they will catalog SmackDowns and NXTs on there. And they will have, I think, premium live events too, right? I don't know if they don't have them in the U.S. or international premium live events. Okay, so I would assume they still have a deal with Peacock. And Peacock's still going to air premium live events, and they'll have the library. They're just spreading the wealth.
I think
it's still mainly just for Raw.
Their Peacock deals through 2026, and at least I think I read that. I did not double check that, so don't hold. If I'm wrong, then it's your fault. But if that is accurate. I could see them, just moving everything from Peacock to Netflix eventually. Sure. I think Netflix will probably be their home at within the next few years for everything.
It's a huge amount of money. I think selfishly as a fan, I actually think there's going to be a lot of great documentaries that probably come from that, because I think Netflix in general does a really good job. So I remember, I think they were trying to do a documentary series. I think they only did Yokozuna. If I remember, I think it was like Lex Luger and British Bulldog were like next in a pipeline, but I think they only did Yokozuna. So I'm wondering if that's like a great opportunity now that Netflix is kind of has some skin in the game, that maybe like some of these documentaries that, a lot of these projects that never got off the ground, that maybe they can kind of, start gaining steam again. I think it's just an insane amount of money. And I think pro wrestling, I think it's, it's kind of like, the attitude era is like, sometimes you're running cold, like in 95, sorry, Nick. And sometimes you're running hot. And I think right now it's running hot. I hope what I find funny on social media is kind of this kind of, if you like WWE, you can't like AEW or vice versa. Mm-hmm. To me, I can't wrap my head around that, because when I was growing up, when I was like 13 during the Monday Night Wars, is I love flicking back and forth. So it's hard for me to like see just like people like openly rooting for AEW's demise, and AEW's, they're running cold right now, but like, you want the competition, right? I think WWE's been so good the past couple of years is because AEW was kind of on their heels and kind of putting out a pretty good product. And I think we've seen when WWE is running solo and they're the only show in town, I think that's when the product gets watered down a little bit. So I do, and this is completely a tangent off topic, but it does like drive me crazy when I see people like, only 1,500 people at the AEW show, like LOL, like, why are you like rooting for that? Like, what, where's the juice in that? But it's just an absurd amount of money. And selfishly, I hope some great documentaries come out of it based off since Netflix,
you got some quick thoughts, Nick?
Yeah, just as an aside of that, and then I'll get into the Netflix deal. I fall kind of prey to that a little bit sometimes, where I get in the mud on Twitter, where and mostly it's just trolling type things, but it stems from when WWE was cold for a lot of the 2010s, there was a lot of years. We started this podcast in 2015, and there was a lot of bad that we talked about for many years before COVID. But it was, for me, AEW does something similar that WWE did back then, and they get like praise for it, and it annoys me. I'm like, no, like, we can't let AEW get praise for the same thing that we hated in WWE just because it's not WWE. We just don't want that at all. Like,
sure.
What kind of turned me off a little bit was the Tyson Jericho, pull apart brawl years ago that all media was trying to kind of push as another Austin Tyson thing, and that kind of made me step back and be like, okay, there's clearly a push to make sure AEW stays in as that competitor to WWE by many, regardless of the content. So it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but that's my problem. Like
Sure.
that's something that I have to deal with. That's like I don't want AEW to die because you're exactly right. AEW succeeds, the wrestling business succeeds, but don't tell me you love something on AEW where just like the year prior the same thing happened on WWE TV and you hated it.
Completely fair.
Just be like
Consistent.
the same. Just be the same. I don't
Right.
know. Just have the same reaction that you would as if it were on either show. Like right now, I have Dynamite on. Jeff Hardy's coming out. Why are we seeing Jeff Hardy on Dynamite? Like I wouldn't want to see him on Raw or SmackDown. Just
Right.
get the Hardys out of here type thing. But people love it. People love it. And listen, again, my problem to deal with.
Right.
That's just where people probably see some of my tweets that are more anti AEW than anti WWE. But you're right. It's because AEW is a little cold. WWE's hot. We didn't think we'd see WWE in this shape for, I don't know if we ever saw ever again. Because we're like, Vince is never going to go away. It's going to be a terrible product for forever. So we're kind of in a spot now where like we can breathe a little bit and be like, oh my God, we have two mainstream companies that we can watch easily every week. Just kind of like give us their best shot, or at least build stories and there's a payoff. They don't insult us for, watching type thing.
Sure.
And that we haven't had that since the Monday Night Wars, really. So I enjoy that. As for the Netflix deal, what's it? Is that 100% increase? I think in their because right now they're getting like 230 something million per year.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the
from USA or NBC.
I'm not sure about the percentage increase, but
So
it's an
now gonna be
increase.
like
We know that for
500 million,
sure,
right? It's gonna be like 500 million per year now. So
yeah,
that's obviously good for them. Hopefully they spend it on talent, but we know I don't know if they will spend most of it on talent, but you can re-sign people, you can pay the stars that you create because now you're creating stars. There's been a lot more people over now than there were, 5 years ago when WWE was the only thing Vince cared about. It wasn't building stars; it was making sure no one got bigger than the initials WWE. So now it's different. I don't know if Triple H has that same mindset, but there's stars on WWE every week. So that's also different. We haven't seen that in forever. So I think the wrestling business as a whole is in an excellent space right now. Yeah. AEW has their deal coming up, which I'm sure will be very lucrative for them. Yeah. So I was going to say luxurious, and I'm like, no, that's not the word I'm looking for. I know it starts with the LU. I know it starts with the LU, but lucrative. So, that'll be, I'm sure, an exciting day when they announce it eventually. You got Swerve, probably going to be their star of the future, breaking out. So, a lot of good in wrestling now. And you're right. I let other people affect my view of it way too much. And again, that's a me problem. But if I just take a step back, I'm like, man, wrestling is awesome. Right. And it's in an awesome spot right now.
Yeah, I think I looked at the deals from as far as like a viewership standpoint, just like consumer standpoint, and how the habits are changing. Obviously, I mean, obviously, streaming is not just the future; it is the now, and it is the future as far as live television. Clearly, I mean, that was like the last pillar they hadn't really knocked down yet. As far as it's worldwide domination of entertainment. They got everything else. Streaming has the best TV shows, the best reality shows, the best dramas, the best comedies, the best movies. Right. They're getting nominated for awards. There are Netflix movies that win awards, like major awards, like Oscars and stuff like that. So the only thing they hadn't really conquered, and I'm talking about streaming platforms as a monolith, all of them, not just Netflix, was live sports and live entertainment. And Amazon has gotten a deal with not Netflix, the NFL for Thursday night football games. Obviously, WWE has to deal with Peacock for the premium live events, and so on and so forth. There's other things. AEW has, they stream their pay-per-views on Bleacher Report live. So it's not like they're a stranger to this neither. So yeah, it's just the way sports is right now. It's just the way it is kind of at the moment. It's just the way the leaves are blowing. We just saw an NFL playoff game be on Peacock exclusively for $110 million for from NBC to get that game, just one game to exclusively air it on Peacock. and it still drew, I think, 23 million viewers. That's a lot of people. I'm sure Peacock was happy with that.
Right.
I'm sure the advertising was through the roof for that, and I'm sure they gained a lot of new subscribers because of that. And they're pretty much forcing the change. Like, some people aren't ready to be exclusive to streaming. Some people aren't ready to cut that cord. The cable companies certainly aren't ready for that cord to get cut, obviously. But these streaming platforms, which, they got all the content right now. They got the juice, and they know it, kind of. And they know that if they will, purchase the rights and purchase the exclusivity of these live events, the people will find a way to watch them. People will find a way. People love the NFL. The NFL somehow gains viewers year after year. Somehow they go up in ratings, only getting more fans. So you think these people are just going to not watch football? They're going to do what they got to do. I'm sure there's people who didn't think football games on cable would work. They were like, you can't put a game on cable. It's got to be on network television, over the air. And nobody would ever do that. You're limiting the audience. And guess what? There's games on cable every week now.
Right.
The same will be done for streaming. The problem is, though, there are people who just haven't adapted to the technology because they're from a prior generation, or they don't have the means to adapt to the technology because they literally don't have the resources. They just don't have the technology. They don't have access to it. But the companies, the big conglomerates who are exchanging this money, they don't care, obviously. They're taking the money, and the people will follow. So I was kind of surprised, but I'm not that surprised at the same time. And it's beneficial for WWE because they get to have network television, cable television, and streaming.
Yep.
SmackDown's on USA, NXT is on CW, that's network television, and Raw's on the biggest streaming platform in the world on Netflix. 200, almost 300 million subscribers. I think they got 274 is the exact number. So it's a big win for all the rich people involved, but for some out there, not so much. But it's interesting stuff. It's the dawning of a new era, January 2025. Mm-hmm. It will be. We're looking at Monday Night Raw. No longer. It might not be Monday Night Raw. That's also a thing. It's not. They haven't guaranteed it's going to continue on Mondays because they don't necessarily want to have to compete with Monday Night Football anymore. So we'll see. It might be Tuesday Night Raw. Who knows? And if they leave Mondays, will AEW go to Mondays? Who knows? Like, we'll see how that goes. It's interesting.
Tony Khan
it's obviously
the NFL will be great. Jacksonville, Jaguar Monday night game, and then having
competing against
a collision.
AEW collision. Where will Tony go? What does he do?
What does Daly's place and Jaguars home games? I'll go back and forth.
He's going to golf cart back and forth.
Full of Rick Rude.
What does USA air at 8:00 Mondays, January 2025? Is it Law and Order SVU? Like, where are you going? Like, where Suits, right?
Something, yeah.
I think now it's not allowed. I'm sure there's so many reasons why you can't. But if I'm, a top exec at USA, I'm having some fun, and then January 2025, I'm airing the first episode of Raw. I'm going January 1993 and just seeing if anybody will notice. Like 8:01. And it's Vince, it's Bobby Heenan.
Maybe the first three, so you have that 3-hour block.
Right, exactly.
1, 2, 3.
Because it's only an hour long. That's right. From the Manhattan Center, and just like seeing how long before everybody catches on. And maybe you get 10 minutes, maybe you get 5, maybe you get an hour. I don't know, but
look, in seriousness, if I'm Tony Khan, I'm hitting up Warner Brothers if they leave Monday. I'm like, hey, can we get Collision on Mondays? Because we need to get off Saturdays.
Sure.
Even Monday is a better night than a Saturday.
Yep.
But transitioning from that, we got a big pay-per-view this weekend, y'all. I don't know if y'all remember, but the Royal Rumble is this weekend.
Oh.
Nick and I will be on the round table with John Jansen and Jason Finelli later on this week. So we're going to talk in depth about our Royal Rumble predictions and thoughts. But I just wanted to talk to you, Dave, about your Royal Rumble picks. Who you got?
I'm perplexed with the Cody Rhodes situation. I thought all roads would lead to him, pun not intended, to him winning the Rumble and then, winning at WrestleMania against Reigns. But with The Rock coming back, and I almost feel like it's too obvious pre-Rock showing up if you won the Rumble and then beat Reigns. I don't know if Rhodes is going to wrestle Reigns at WrestleMania. It doesn't sound like Rock's not saving that for Australia. Like, that's going to be WrestleMania. So I'm going to say CM Punk wins, with the caveat is I don't know what you do with Cody Rhodes, but I'm also the guy who thought that Sami Zayn should have won in Montreal last year. So I'm like the worst person to ask. I was like one of those. I was like that minority of like, I don't know, Sami Zayn's really over. It'd be a great moment, like a Mick Foley on Monday Night Raw. But I'm going to say Punk wins. I think that's probably the safest bet.
Who you got winning the Women's Rumble?
Bailey? I don't know if there's any other. I think men's is more open as far as potential winners. I think like maybe Brock Lesnar could be a name that's certainly big enough that could win. I think you can get Punk, and depending on Seth Rollins' health, another way. But I think the women's is, I can't think of too many other options, like maybe Liv Morgan. Like nothing's really jumping out at me. It's, I guess, the wild card is where, who has, is Sasha Banks employed by, I guess, is like the big name. But like, I feel like the women's, I'm kind of scrambling to find other viable options other than Bailey. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think the men's seems more wide open. There's more names available.
I would agree with you on that. I haven't made my prediction just yet. I'm going to write a column for USA Today. I'm going to do the round table, so I still need some time to deliberate. Sorry, Straight Shooters viewers, but I still need time. But make sure that you check out those two things. Now we got the podcast and we got a written content coming up, a written piece coming out. So be on the lookout. But I still need time to deliberate, go into the lab and really, put the game plan on the wall and figure it out. But Nick, I don't know if you want to give some quick thoughts on the Rumble real quick.
As far as the women's Rumble, I agree with Dave. It doesn't seem as open as the men's, but I also, maybe by design, I just haven't paid close attention to the participants. And I remember I did read something where they haven't really announced as many as they usually do in previous years.
There's only, I believe, 9 or 10 people that's declared. At least I wrote a story just literally listing the people out who's in it and the chances of winning. There's literally, as of that writing, with 4 women and I think 5 or 6 men.
Man.
Wow.
So, I mean, you're obviously going to see some people we see weekly, but how many surprises will we get? Maybe will we get more than we have the last couple of years? I remember people will get upset because they're announcing too many names, but it's like, does it really matter if like R-Truth is a surprise entrant that you don't know about versus that you do know about? Like, I just never understood like that thought process of.
Also, who are the surprises? Really, they got this massive roster.
Right.
They are.
Chad Gable's like, oh, I wish they wouldn't have told me that they would have been in the match. It's like, well, why? If
and of course, they're going to announce the biggest names in the match.
They can announce 25, and I'd be cool with it because that's 5 people, 5 opportunities that you just don't know. Like, and I'm cool with that because, Dave, early Rumbles, they announced everybody.
Yeah.
You knew exactly who was coming in. I mean, there
Warlord's
was no
number 30. Monsoon will tell you. I'm like, who's number 30? He's like, oh, it's got to be the Warlord. I'm like, oh, man, what a letdown.
Just like, as a matter of fact.
Thanks,
too,
Gorilla.
like, exactly. And it's just so funny because we did the deep dive of the 95 Rumble. Vaughn did a great impression of Vince McMahon.
Vince.
Every single entrant, he's gonna win the Royal Rumble.
Will he win the Royal Rumble match? Will he main event WrestleMania?
The same exact thing. So,
and I always make the chest puff out because this is Vince. And I just imagine like he's all big and burly. It's like talking with his chest moving.
And like they announced everyone back then too, even in '95. Like they announced Dick Murdoch. I had no idea who that was going into that. I was
95 Rumble.
I was 9 years old.
It's like you're checking like the yellow pages for guys. Like,
bro, it's
like
the worst Rumble of all time.
Oh, horrible. Like Rick Martel hadn't wrestled in years, and it's like, oh, it's the model.
Yeah.
Like that guy hasn't been around since WrestleMania 8 here. Like what? Where has he been in for 3 years?
Right.
How many dark matches against Jim Powers has he been wrestling in? Because I haven't seen him on TV in years, but it was like so commonplace. I think 95 is a good example. It's like they never had, if you had a title, you weren't in the Rumble. Like Razor Ramon was never in the Rumble. Like sometimes you should have made an exception back then. I had like another name there, but like Dick Murdoch is like such a, like Dick Murdoch, like I think he finished like 4th or 5th or something because he was that late. He entered so late, and it's just like Like, I'm only 11 years old, but Dick Murdoch's not winning the Rumble. Like, come on, like, fool me once, shame on me,
Vince wanted to put that little kernel of doubt in your mind that he could.
Will
Murdoch
win?
And another big one is like anytime there was a big guy, they're like, how do you get 95 King Kong Bundy over the top rope? I mean, they've been getting Andre over the top rope for years.
Yeah, the top heavy. It's very easy to get them over.
Just bring a snake in, and you'll get Andre and King Kong Bundy to all jump out of the ring. But that's always like a big trope. It's just like, oh, you're never gonna get Bam Bam. You're never gonna get the big boss man over the top rope. Come on,
1996.
Yeah,
Shawn Michaels eliminated Yokozuna and Vader.
Right.
Like, what are we doing here?
There's a way.
It's very easy.
Yeah, we'll find a way. You think AJ Lee returned? Right. That seems like an obvious one, right?
That's a good name.
Ooh, man, that'd be wild. That the roof might come off the place in Tampa.
Because
I think renovate Tropicana Field after that.
I think there's more leeway in the women's rumbles for like the legends, right, quote unquote. Like this surprised me. I think the men, right? It's hard to find spots anymore. Like weird growing up, it was just like the Rumble is always filled with like tag teams. It's like here's Butch. 10 minutes later, here's Luke.
Back to back. Like the 95 one had the Smoking Guns back to back, and they had like another tag team. Well Done, I think was.
You were trying to.
They were not even worried creatively about. Okay, you're gonna draw number 23. You're number 24.
You might as well bring them out at the same time, to be honest. Like, what's the? Why did?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Instead of 23 and 24, just make it 23A and 23B. But I think there's so many wrestlers now is that like tag teams for the most part, like you can't even fit those in. So like on the men's side, it's like how much even room is there for surprises? Because I think there's just so many guys in general. I think all of them like because they get so much TV time now. It's like there aren't not many chumps. Right, there aren't that many chumps where it's just like, Bushwhacker Luke's not winning the Rumble. Like in today's market, like today's climate, like all the guys have like a pretty good reputation and all got a lot of steam behind them. So I just don't know how much room there are. But I think on the women's side, there was more room for some surprises. I would have Medusa bring her old title that she refuses to sell. Like I would absolutely that she threw in the trash can that she still has possession of. Like. I'd be flaunting that thing, but I'd be probably the only person that cares about that.
Out and steal it.
Yeah, exactly. The episode, like the first time, she's like, "No, I'm not selling it."
Yeah.
On the Treasure Show in '80, which is like, "Oh, it's good for you."
She hurt his feelings, but
good for
Mick
you.
just thought she would give it up. It's like she was like, "Nope, I'm good."
WWE gave it to me. I'm keeping it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just it.
Please leave my house. Please leave my house, Nick.
Also, it's something that people want to see when I do autograph signings because
it's
true. That's true.
Like if I give it to you, they don't. Maybe they won't pay as much. I don't know.
Right.
But to wrap it around back to Kayfabe, a love story. One chapter in the book is the odds for the '92 Royal Rumble, and I won't read them all here, but got to buy the book to get them all. But two of my favorites. One is for Macho Man Randy Savage plus 1,800. Also, these are courtesy of DraftKings, according to the book, right?
Completely legit.
Right. Official odds, official sports book, official sports book of WWE and many other companies.
In 1992.
Yeah. In 1992, in the glory days of single game betting and stuff like that. But the blurb we have here listed for Macho Man and his odds, again, plus 1,800. One of the best to ever do it, but is winning a top priority? see above, which we got a Jake Roberts one above him. Been seeing red at the receiving the worst wedding gift ever. Is winning a top priority? that's great foreshadowing. Is that foreshadowing? I don't know.
I mean, he didn't eliminate himself,
last one,
but...
right? The last one I'll read here is Ric Flair plus 2,000. Okay. His credentials speak for themselves, but at just 240 pounds, experts don't believe his style of match suits the Nature Boy. Would benefit from a later entry number to reduce the wear and tear. Hard to imagine a deep run.
I think part of it is, I think it's one thing to try to be funny and be over the top, but I think I get more joy of like trying to play like the straight laced character. It's like obviously Ric Flair. Like, you're not reading this book. You're not buying a book called Kayfabe, a love story. Like, well, I wonder who wins the '92 Rumble. You've seen the '92 Rumble. So I think just me saying like, I don't know, 243 pounds. Like, Royal Rumble is a big man's game. I just don't see it. So I think it's just obviously everyone did on the joke, but as opposed to like hitting you over the head with it. If I just to me, it was always funnier when there's moments where I can just kind of, say something subtly, but like with a wink and a nod.
Yeah.
You guys know.
I mean,
You guys know the joke.
it'd be terrible if he drew a number like 3 or something, right?
Horrible.
Like,
That'd be horrible. You have no
it'd be
chance.
horrible for him.
Yeah.
Can't trick gorilla.
Greatly decrease his odds.
Can't trick gorilla. You can kiss it goodbye, brain.
I think there's one when Nikolai Volkov comes out on that and he goes, "Oh, what a feather in a cap it would be for like Slovakia or Yugoslavia." And Monsoon goes, "He's Russian," and Gorilla goes, "Ah, whatever," or something like that. I butchered the phrase, but something along those lines. It just, I think a lot of those matches, like 92 Rumble is a great example. WrestleMania 3, Steamboat 7, which is my favorite match of all time, is the commentary. I think really it really elevates it, and everyone loves Heenan and Monsoon, but like don't sleep on Monsoon and Ventura. Like to me, they were like that was like the big match team. So I think Heenan was always a bit more of a jokester. And I think sometimes, and I love Bobby, but I think it maybe took away from the matches where I think Ventura had like the big fight feel. So I think he was always kind of better suited in the title matches. But I mean, 92 Rumble, that was probably Heenan's shining moment. He was fantastic, obviously.
Dude, right on the money. Because first match I saw, Hogan Warrior, Jesse Ventura, Hulkamania will live forever.
Yeah.
And Hogan loses the Undertaker to Survivor Series, and Heenan goes, "Hulkamania's dead. He's dead." Just obviously you know the difference. So Ventura, doing that to me, I didn't look at him as like a heel commentator because that was the first time I ever heard him. Right. Then he was like, "Hulkamania will live forever, Monsoon." And it's like, oh, so he's like literally giving Hulk Hogan credit when in reality he hated his guts, but like, he did his job. And
sure did hate him. Still hates him.
Hogan lost once, yeah. Hogan lost once, and it's like Hulkamania is dead. He's dead, and it's just long live the Undertaker. Like just hilarious.
Nick, did you like that WrestleMania 6 match? Because I have a chapter on that one. Obviously, I hated it as a kid because I loved both guys. Like it was a hard watch for me.
So for me, my first the guy I was a fan of first was Ultimate Warrior because he was the champ, and I was like, of course I'm going to like the winner. So
Nick the bandwagoner over here now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I didn't know who Hulk Hogan was. Like,
yeah, you're a Phillies fan. Go figure. Yeah,
exactly. It's like Hulk lost.
Those front running Phillies fans.
Boy, we won a lot. We won a lot in 120 years. Haven't we?
Oh yeah, right. And lost a lot too. Apparently. The most ever, right? Something like that. They're the first team of 10,000 losses back in the day.
Absolutely.
I was at that game. I was at loss number 10,000.
Nice.
Sorry, Nick. Go ahead.
What a moment. But yeah, no, I wasn't. I didn't realize Hulk left too for a few months. He came back at SummerSlam, and I actually went there. Apparently, I vaguely remember. I had people telling me I was there. That's why I vaguely remember. But I'm trying to remember like when it was at the Spectrum, the seat I was in. For the cage match, and I remember the Ultimate Warrior climbing the cage and shaking it, and like watching it on TV. I'm like, I definitely remember seeing that, like so, and I definitely remember walking the concourse. So I definitely believe I was there. Plus, I had people telling me I was there, but that was my first ever wrestling event. So yeah, Ultimate Warrior was my guy at that time. Right. So Hulk Hogan comes back, and I didn't realize he was the guy until he beat Sergeant Slaughter at WrestleMania. So, yeah, and it never. I always thought it was Ultimate Warrior giving Hulk Hogan the rub.
Sure.
Like I didn't realize it was the other way around until I was older. So, yeah.
I think it was just a babyface versus babyface match was like never done. Really not done again for years.
I had no clue.
Right. So yeah, ignorance is bliss in your case. But I remember just like. I think getting into chapter, I was just relieved it was over. Like I hated it. Like it was like watching my two friends fight. Like I don't want any of these guys to lose.
Just glad it's over.
Yeah, right.
And nobody got hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
Except Hulk's feeling.
Yeah, right.
He was crying.
Yeah,
it's like, oh,
he's a competitor.
Yeah.
But Dave, let's wrap it up here. Plug away with everything you want to plug about the book or anything else you got going on in your life.
Sure.
Please. And thanks for joining us, by the way. I should say that first. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it was awesome.
You spent over an hour with us. Took probably too much of your time, but we appreciate you hanging out with us and talking good old-fashioned wrestling, which is what we do and what we love to do. But again, plug away with anything you got going on. And of course, anything and everything regarding the book.
Sure. First, thanks for having me. I could talk about old school wrestling for about 4 hours. So this was just scratching the surface. So it's a good thing you cut off my mic. Eventually, I would just still keep going. So Kayfabe: A Love Story, right? It's a book written in kayfabe. It is 87 chapters, but they're only a couple pages long. When I wrote A Sixers Odyssey, there was a Reddit thread about my book, and someone described it as the perfect poop book, because they kept it in the bathroom, because each chapter was only a couple pages long. And I remember reading that thread and being like horrified that like I spent all this time and all this blood, sweat, and tears writing a book, and people have identified it as a poop book. And I remember my wife saying, well, at least they're reading it at all. So I was like, so read it wherever you want. Read it in the bathroom, the bus, the train, the living room. It's my third book. If you're a Sixers fan, I wrote A Sixers Odyssey. Phillies fan, I wrote A Phillies Odyssey. You can buy any of these books on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, anywhere you buy books online, bookshop.org. And it's meant to be funny. It's obviously it's written tongue in cheek, and every page and every chapter and every essay was written with kind of an audience in mind. And I really wanted audience to laugh with me, as opposed to laughing, at someone. It's kind of part of the reason why I didn't want to go to the shoot side of things. Is I didn't want to be, I think with wrestling, I think there's kind of an over reliance on snarkiness. Certainly as far as, Brutus Beefcake, won with the sleeper hold, and I wasn't the only one who fell asleep during that match, or any some BS like that, right? Like, that's just not me. That's just not my sense of humor. I always believe kind of punching up in comedy. So I think writing a book in kayfabe is I'm able to kind of poke fun at characters, and not human beings. And it's not something that I would ever feel comfortable with. So I hope you guys can read the book and, laugh along with me.
Follow me at _Picone on Twitter and TikTok. You can follow me at Picone Nick on Threads and at Picone on Blue Sky. You can follow us at Shooters Radio on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and we're at shootersradio.com and shooterspod.com. You can check me out at crossingbroad.com as well.
All right. I am at Vaughn M. Johnson on X, at Vaughn Johnson 166 on IG, at Vaughn Johnson on Blue Sky and Threads. You can check me out there. I think I'm at Vaughn Johnson 166 on Blue Sky too. No, on Blue Sky on Threads as well. But you can check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/shootersradio, where you can request a future deep dive just like this one. And when you do, you can make a cameo on the show that we're diving deep into. Once again, patreon.com/shootersradio.
I'm gonna scrutinize you to the fullest, pasteurize you, homogenize you, and synchronize you back into morality.